On Sunday, we had the Brazilian Grand Prix. First of all, dude, Brazil looks beautiful. I got to get over there to Brazil someday. Oh my gosh, it looks fantastic. Now, the race was also fantastic. Lewis Hamilton won. Max Verstappen got second. And I got to say, thank God for Lewis Hamilton. I am so happy that Lewis Hamilton won this race. Him winning keeps things interesting in Formula One. So I just want to give a special thank you to Lewis Hamilton. Thank you for this weekend. It was fun to watch him. And I'm glad, like, he makes things interesting. I would say that I am rooting for Max Verstappen to win this year in Formula One. I'm a Max fan. I like Red Bull. I think it'd be cool to see things shaken up. But you know what I want way more than I want Max to win? I want a good finish. And even if Lewis Hamilton wins the F1 world title, I'll be happy as long as he gets challenged. Like, whether Max wins or Lewis wins, what I don't want is a blowout. I would be unhappy if Max Verstappen won by, like, you know, if he won next weekend and the race, the competition was over, I'd be disappointed. I want this to come down to the final race. And now, what Lewis did over the weekend, it's incredible. It deserves a ton of praise. Between an engine penalty and a penalty where he broke technical regulations for having a rear wing DRS gap larger than 85 millimeters, Lewis had to overcome a 25-place grid penalty. He got disqualified from qualifying, so he started last during sprint qualifying on Saturday. During sprint qualifying, he went from last, 20th, because there's only 20 cars on the grid. He went from 20th, last, to 5th, and then after that, he still got another penalty, got a 5 more place grid penalty. So during the race, Lewis started in 10th and still won. It was incredible driving. Yes, he has an amazing car. Everyone's going to say, well, it's the car, not Lewis. And I don't know. I get it a little bit. Like, I feel bad. Fernando Alonso is talking about how, you know, it's hard to compete against a guy because his car is so much better than me. And I get that. Like, I feel bad. Fernando Alonso's driving an Alpine. I would love to see what Fernando Alonso could do in a Mercedes. But what happened last weekend for Lewis Hamilton in Brazil required even more than a great car. It was incredible driving. I mean, Lewis was like a shark, just hunting down overtake after overtake. And we need like a mashup of the Jaws music and the Formula One theme, like dun it, dun it, dun it, dun it, dun it, da 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 ba ba ba. Like, I really want that somehow, like, because I just, every time I see Lewis hunting down, like, he's just on the prowl, man. It's so cool to watch him do stuff like this where he has overtake after overtake after overtake. And one thing that really did help Lewis Hamilton early on was a safety car that brought the pack together. He got a good start, got up in the field a little bit, and then Yuki Tsunoda crashed into Lance Stroll. Yuki Tsunoda was way too aggressive, taking the inside on a turn that really wasn't his. By the way, there were 2 DNFs in this race. Lance Stroll did not finish, neither did Daniel Ricciardo. But when the safety car happened, because of Yuki Tsunoda, Max was way out in front, had a big gap, and was way in the lead. And the safety car slowed him down. And now, would Lewis have still passed Max? I mean, he passed him with a lot of laps to go. Maybe, probably. But it's funny to me how frequently the Red Bull sister team driver for AlphaTauri, Yuki Tsunoda, keeps hurting the Red Bull main team. I'm like, man, if I'm Red Bull, I want to just strangle Yuki Tsunoda. I'd be so tired of his mistakes to keep hurting the main team. Now, I actually thought the best overtake of the weekend was actually Lewis Hamilton passing Lando Norris to go from 6th place to 5th place right at the end of sprint qualifying on Saturday. It wasn't on Sunday, so I think it gets overlooked and not mentioned, but oh my gosh, did anyone see the overtake? It just happened. It was so quick, and you're like, oh my gosh, wow. And that really helped us. Like, imagine if he had to start in 11th rather than 10th on Sunday. It was an amazing move. I also got to say, in Brazil, Max Verstappen started in 2nd. I am convinced that starting in 2nd is a way better spot to start the race than in 1st, because you get the inside of turn 1. It's a left-hand turn in Brazil. I think Ayrton Senna and Alan Prost talked about that a long time ago. It's kind of weird how in Brazil they make you start on the right side, which gives you the outside of turn 1 in Brazil. And I just don't know that that's actually an advantage. I'm like, would you maybe rather be 2nd in Brazil? Am I the only one who thinks that? I'm like, I don't know that that's... Anyway, here are the top 10 finishes, the points finishes from Brazil. Lewis got 1st, Max got 2nd, Then Valtteri Bottas got third for Mercedes. Sergio Perez got fourth for Red Bull. On top of that, he also stole fastest lap from Lewis. The Ferrari drivers got fifth and sixth. Charles Leclerc got fifth. Carlos Sainz got sixth. Seventh was Pierre Gasly. He got 6 points for AlphaTauri. 8 and 9 were both Alpine drivers. Esteban Ocon got eighth for 4 points. Ninth place was Fernando Alonso for 2 points. Alpine and AlphaTauri are still tied after Brazil. They were tied in the F1 standings with 106 points last weekend or last race. Now they are tied with 112 points each. That battle for fifth place between AlphaTauri and Alpine is getting really interesting. It's also kind of sad. Basically, Pierre Gasly is fighting alone against the two Alpine drivers. Pierre is not getting much help from his rookie teammate, Yuki Tsunoda, who's only scored 20 points the entire year. I guess it's not horrible to be, in 14th as a rookie, your first year in Formula One. I don't want to be too harsh to Yuki Tsunoda, although, man, he's definitely not had a great year. But the battle in fifth is really interesting. Pierre Gasly's alone. He's got 92 points on the year. I wonder if his back is sore from carrying the AlphaTauri team. Like, imagine how much AlphaTauri would be squarely in fifth if they got any real help from their number two driver. But, instead of that, because right now you look at Fernando Alonso and Esteban Ocon, they're both contributing about 50, 60 points each. It's pretty even. But that AlphaTauri team it's Pierre Gasly alone against the two Alpine drivers. And I'm just really curious to see how that finishes out. Does AlphaTauri get fifth? Does Alpine get fifth? It's just a really interesting storyline there. A fun battle. Now, the battle for third in the constructors' standings. After this race, Ferrari is pulling away from McLaren. Ferrari got fifth and sixth here. McLaren driver Lando Norris had a bad start in Brazil. He got a puncture on lap one, put him all the way at the back of the grid. He was actually lucky to even stay in the race. He had to finish the entire lap, basically, with a busted tire. He did get 10th place and 1 point in Brazil. The other McLaren driver, Danny Rick, got a power issue, did not finish the race. That's a little bit concerning for Mercedes. It's a Mercedes-powered team. But that put McLaren way behind in the standings. Now, here are the standings right now in Formula One. In the driver's standings, you have Max Verstappen, who leads with 332.5 points. Lewis Hamilton is in second with 318.5 points. In third, you have Valtteri Bottas with 203 points. In fourth, you have Sergio Perez with 178 points. I feel like I should mention that, but I really only care about the battle for first and second between Max and Lewis in the driver's standings. In the team or constructor standings, you have Mercedes is in first with 521.5 points. Red Bull's in second with 510.5 points. In third, you got Ferrari with 287.5 points. And fourth, you have McLaren with 256 points. It's not completely over for McLaren, but I'm at this point, I'd be surprised if McLaren does get third in Formula One just because of the lead that Ferrari has. And it's not like you need 25 points to really get ahead. And I don't see a race where McLaren's going to win and Ferrari is going to have, such a bad finish where the gap is up. I just don't see. It's going to be really, really difficult for McLaren to make up these points and compete for third now because they're not going to get first or second or third even or fourth. Really, I just don't see a podium finish for either team. I think Mercedes and Red Bull are so secure at the top unless something crazy happens, which it always could. I don't want to count them out completely, but it's going to be dang near impossible for McLaren to make up as many points as they're behind now because of Brazil getting only 1 point and having one guy DNF. Again, AlphaTauri, they're tied right now with 112 points. They're competing for fifth place. That's really interesting to me. There are 3 races left. You got Qatar this weekend coming up on Sunday. Then you got Saudi Arabia, the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, and then the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Now, if what happened in Brazil happens in the next 2 races in Qatar and then the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, if Max gets second, Lewis gets first, neither one of them get fastest lap. Max's 14-point gap, it would be cut down to nothing. It'd be actually tied. Going into the final race, you would have Lewis and Max tied with 368.5 points to 368.5 points. They'd be tied going into the final race, the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. That would be incredible. I want that to happen. Now, I got to say, it would be amazing, but I actually think to have the final race decide the F1 title, in that situation, I would actually give the advantage to Lewis. Lewis has won many, many world titles. Max has not won. I think that situation is a little bit too big for Max, especially when you think about the fact that Max, so does Lewis. I mean, there are a couple battles where, I think of the times where Lewis Hamilton pushed off Alex Albon, the former Red Bull driver. So it's not like Lewis is impervious to emotional decision making or making a mistake to win or making maybe a move to shunt somebody and win a race. But I worry way more about Max Verstappen getting emotional and doing something ridiculous to, get himself in trouble. On lap 48 in Brazil, even, there's a big conversation right now. Did Max push Lewis off the track? Plus, on top of that, when Lewis was hunting down Max, Max was literally like swerving down the main straight, which you cannot do. And I worry that if the F1 title came down to the final race, I worry Max would make an emotional mistake that would hurt him. And I watched the onboard. You can make a strong argument that Max had no intention of making the apex of that turn in Brazil and pushed Lewis wide. Mercedes has requested a review. I'm a Max fan. I worry that Max is going to get a penalty. I being objective and fair, I'm like, it's really hard to defend you, Max. And I love Max, but he does that stuff. He gets aggressive and I think emotional and makes mistakes, and I like him, but that's a big weakness he has, and we'll see if anything comes of that. Maybe Max will get a penalty for Qatar this weekend. Either way, we are heading towards an amazing finish in Formula One. Max Verstappen versus Lewis Hamilton, Mercedes versus Red Bull. I cannot wait to see how things play out in Formula One. It's going to be an incredible finish to the year, and I hope you guys enjoy the upcoming race. We got 3 left: Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and then the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Same location, but it'll be really, really exciting to watch the way this year finishes up in Formula One.